You're listening to Get Real KC with Jen and Eric. Kansas City's consumer-facing real estate podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome to Get Real KC, where we are overflowing with a passion for all things real estate. I'm Eric Jurgensen.
I'm Jen Justice.
I'm Aiden Delgado.
I'm Becky Mullies.
And today we are here for the second part of our Better Buyer series, where we're trying to help make you a better buyer. Now, last week we spent a whole lot of time talking about vetting realtors and vetting agents, and we kind of want to get a little bit more into the nitty-gritty today. So we're going to be doing a quick review on getting pre-qualified with that lender because it is so incredibly important. We're going to be talking about finding your dream home. We're going to be talking about how to set up showings and a little bit about the finances involved in your offer. And then we'll wrap it all up in part 3. But right now, let's just get started and let's talk about very briefly that whole pre-qualified step. It's so important, it's worth repeating.
Oh, absolutely. So getting pre-qualified is instrumental in literally not setting yourself up for disappointment, because you don't want to go looking at $500,000 homes and then find out you're only pre-qualified for 400 or 300 or 250 or whatever that number ends up being. You don't want to set yourself up for that disappointment. So it's vitally important to find out what you're pre-qualified for and taking that important step, because there's emotions that go with that, right? Like you share.
What is that HGTV show where they do that first? They take the list and they go show them a home and it's way out of their budget. Now, I know it's all scripted, but was that Property Brothers, I think?
There's a few of them.
And then the first thing they do is they say, this home is great, and everybody gets excited about it. And of course, you can't even begin to afford that home because it's way out of their budget.
Right.
And so that's a terrible thing to do. You know, the other thing that's important about getting pre-qualified, in my opinion, is respect. And when you're going to see somebody else's home, they have it on the market, unless it happens to be vacant, chances are they're cleaning up, they
might have kids,
getting
nap
out of the
time.
house, dealing with dogs, kids, elderly parents, relatives, whatever. And so they're putting this huge amount of effort into it, and then you're asking them, hey, do this effort, and I don't even know whether I can actually even afford this house or not.
Right.
So those I think are the two reasons. One, not to set yourself up for disappointment, but two, just to show some respect to somebody who's got their property on the market.
Well, and like I said, the emotions of sharing personal financial documents with someone else, let's face it, that's a little bit uncomfortable and a little bit unnerving, but it is part of the process. And so you just have to have that trusted lender partner interview, make sure you're comfortable with that. And then they have secure ways that you can share that information, or most of our lenders are local, so you can take it to them or they'll pick it up from you either way. So lots of options there, but just a really important step.
Some of those pre-qualification steps aren't near as invasive. When you get to that underwriting, then maybe they want a lot more, but you should be prepared with W-2s, 1099s, bank statements, those kinds of things. But frequently, a lot of that stuff for the pre-qual can be done over the phone in some cases. So. Right. Just kind of depending on your situation.
Something else to note about that, I've heard from people before that sharing that information with your realtor is a little bit uncomfortable, especially if you know them, if it's like a family or a friend, which is funny because we don't get any of that. We don't know anything about anything. All we know is you're approved for this amount, and if there are special terms, we'll know those. But those don't give us any detail into your intimate finances as well. And I think that's something that can be nerving for people.
Yeah, and confusing as a buyer that maybe you've never bought before, or maybe you don't, know exactly about that. Yeah. So that information is shared just with the lender. That's a great point, Becky.
Yeah,
absolutely. And because I think I've had that happen before. Like, well, I need to tell you about I'm pre-qualified, and like, no, you don't need to tell me anything.
I don't need to know.
The lender is that department.
Right. Yeah. So that's a great point. Once you've done that, so go back and listen to episode 1, talk about vetting a realtor. If you're not going to choose one of the 4 of us, maybe you're not in Kansas City, so we understand. But
well, we know great realtors everywhere.
Then you need to find a great lender. Most realtors who recommend lenders aren't getting any. There's no transaction fee piece of the pie. If there is, they're going to have you sign a document saying they have an interest in that lending institution. I know I personally, and I don't think any of us here at the table take any kickbacks from lenders.
No.
You know what? I do get invited every once in a while to like a lender's realtor appreciation event where
There we go.
I might get like a free cocktail. So there
You
you
know
go.
what?
That's
Or
the-
you got trivia night.
I did
We-
have
Trivia
trivia night
night.
with one
And we
lender.
did get
Yeah.
an award because we lost.
It's true.
It's-
We got last
It
place in
wasn't.
trivia.
If the
place.
topic was real estate, we would have won. But the topic was not real estate.
Right, that's right. So anyway, yeah, your chances are you're a great realtor for sure. It's not taking kickbacks or anything along those lines. So definitely pay attention to those recommendations if you don't already have somebody you want to work with. Once you've done all of that, now we've got pre-qualified, you've got a great lender, you've got an awesome realtor who really knows what they're doing behind you. Now it's time for, right, the fun part, right? And the fun part, at least initially, is to be able to go out and start looking for your dream home. And so let's start talking about some of the considerations you should have already thought of. And I think most clients are already there. They've kind of got that. We'll frequently do like, give us your must-haves and give us your would like to haves, etc. Let's go over some of those. What are some of those things?
Location.
Right? I mean,
Where
that's
you- where
that's
you
the
wanna
old
go?
that's the old adage in starting a business. What's the most important thing? Location. And then the
Location.
second most important thing, and the third most important thing.
Location.
What are some considerations in location that people should be looking at?
You know, one of the things I like to recommend of any of my buyers is if you find a particular area that you really love, drive it several times at different times of the day. It's one of my favorite things to recommend, just because the number of cars there at noon is
Yeah.
probably not the number of cars there at 5 or 7 p.m.
Yeah.
Right? It's just worth checking out.
I'll tell you what, I had a client who was an out-of-state client, and they moved here, and they were here for a while, and I was like, now that you're here, like, go see these things, because they were touring a bunch of houses, and they would tour some by highways, and I was like, okay, we're going to tour this at either 8 a.m. or 5 p.m., because it worked for her schedule anyway, so it didn't matter. And so I was like, we have to tour it during highway hours, during rush hour, when it's going to be busy, when it's going to be the loudest, and then whenever... Because at that time, we fortunately had multiple days to go see houses. And so I was like, let's go see it again at noon if it's vacant. Let's go see it at whatever time, just to get an idea of what to expect at all hours, especially if you're going to work from home.
And what are some of the things your buyers, you've had a lot of buyers now, what do they look for in the importance of their
Their
items?
commute to their job. Sometimes I want to be closer to the airport as well.
Oh yeah, that's a big
yeah.
one. And thank goodness, woo, we have a wonderful airport, friends, and there's some really good barbecue there. Okay.
Well, there's good barbecue all over the city. Don't get me started.
know. Maybe we should do a whole series on barbecue in Kansas City.
There you go.
Woo!
So
Friends,
proximity to work, I think you're right, is very important. And then to tie what you and Becky both said together, some of the times what we'll do if they're looking in particular neighborhoods or not, and they're not very familiar with the city or that neighborhood for their commute, is I'll suggest like, well, what time do you normally go into work? Well, I normally leave at, 7:30 and get into work at 8. I'm like, okay, great. Get up early one day and then go into that neighborhood and then leave there at 7:30. Right, and understand what that commute looks like, right, and try to figure out like, was it really good, was it really bad, was that an anomaly? People who commute understand how to do all of that. The other thing that kind of occurred to me, and I thought it was pretty funny because I've had it both ways, right, which is proximity to other family. Right, I want to be close to mom and dad to help with
Or
the
far.
kids,
Or not too close.
right, or I've had it both ways, or like, I
I
don't
need
really,
to not be next door.
I don't need my in-laws to be able to be popping in 5 minutes. I want to be on the other side of the city. I actually had that, so it's pretty funny. But it's something that people should be taking into consideration.
Yeah, just something to have a conversation about
Where are
and
your
think about.
friends? Where are your family? How often do you want to visit with them? Do you entertain at home? Do you go to their homes? Those kinds of things.
And Eric and I recently did a condo sale downtown, and one of her most important requests was walk to work.
Yeah.
And so you got to think about that when you're looking at, okay, where is the walkability of my particular job to where I'm going to be living when I come to the city to work. So that was a real consideration as well. And streetcar is becoming more of a consideration. We've had several clients that want to live on the streetcar, or I recently had a client that was challenged in seeing, and so they needed ride shares, they needed bus route, they needed these things. And so where are all those in proximity to where you're going to be living?
Big deals. there's a couple of other things that you probably have already thought of, but maybe you haven't. And I was only marginally surprised. I think it's been a few years, but we looked at an NAR study that was done about how many people would either move or significantly change their living arrangement for their
Pets.
pets. Absolutely. And I did not hold up a cue card. We all have dealt with that. So the obvious one is, right, I have dogs and I want a backyard with a fence, or I want to be able to put up a fence and all that kind of, but those really aren't the only considerations. There are a lot of others.
HOA ties right into that fencing.
That's right. That's
Because there
another
is a
big deal.
variety of regulations that come with when you live in an HOA, and there are ebbs and flows to that. And so you just need to discuss that. You need to read the bylaws and the covenants of the neighborhood that you're choosing if they have an HOA, and just understand what you're accepting, because there can be fines associated with things with HOAs if you accept and then you don't follow. So that's really important in terms of fence, because, like, for example, a lot of HOAs don't allow chain link fencing, which by and large I believe is the least expensive type of fencing. So if that's important,
Greg
you just
Satter
need to
would tell us
explore
that,
it.
right?
Yeah.
He was
Yeah,
on.
actually, we have
Top rail
Greg
fence.
Satter was on
You'll
with
learn.
Top Rail Fence just not that long ago, actually.
Right,
So
yeah.
check that out if you're thinking about fencing.
Well, and on top of that, because you had mentioned HOA and regulations, sometimes HOAs regulate how many pets you can have, period, or types of
Or
pets.
chickens. We
Yeah.
won't go down that path, but
Right,
chickens
so-
are an important one.
So that's not only HOAs, right? But that's
That's
city
city.
regulations
Yes.
of whether you can have chickens, whether you can have roosters, how close they can be to somebody else's property, and then other non-traditional animals other than dogs and cats. Some HOAs and cities still regulate breeds for dogs, so you need to be paying attention to all of that. But there are other considerations. There are people that get a little bit of land and they have horses, goats, sheep, all of those things, and you need to be very aware. Now, chances are, if you are a pet owner, or I don't know if you call a horse a pet owner because they're not really pets.
Equine enthusiasts.
There you
and
go.
they are pets.
The equine enthusiasts. Chances are you know to look into all of that stuff. But
Yeah, and there are a lot of acreage properties, especially north in like the Smithville area, that actually do have HOAs that may or may not restrict equine, chickens, goats, etc. So just because it's on land, do not automatically assume that you can have whatever you want on the land. So another consideration, kind of to wrap it up, is boats, campers, RVs, those kinds of things. You want to make sure if you are planning on storing those items at your house, there are some HOAs that actually do allow that, but there are others that don't. So if that's an important factor to you, just check it out, because if you're going to have to pay for storage somewhere else, you need to make sure you're including that in your budget.
And let me give you a final word on HOAs that you really need to pay attention to, because I live in an HOA that's very restrictive. Not only can you not have a chain link fence, you can't have any kind of fence. You can't even have an invisible fence. It's because there's zero lot line, and we'll explain that someday if you want to know what they are.
Call us.
Yeah, but we've watched people move in that didn't utilize us. I've got some neighbors that moved in from out of state, and they were under contract before they found out what was in the HOA. And that was very, very disappointing for them. And they're still pretty unhappy about it, pushing a year later.
Yep, good note.
If your agent is blowing off the HOA, not important, we'll get those documents eventually. Man, get a better
Get
agent.
that before your inspection period's up for sure,
Get a
friends.
better agent, because there are, in reality, HOAs that collect a little bit of money just to, fix the monument at the corners of the subdivision that say blah,
Or
blah
have a
subdivision.
trail or something.
Or have a trail, or maybe through a Christmas party, and it's, $50 a year or $200 a year. Sometimes those HOAs are hard to find somebody who is actually running it and responsible for that. So that's a real problem. But if there is a recurring monthly or a large fee, or if there are tennis courts or swimming pools or pickleball courts or whatever in the subdivision, man, I would make sure that you have those regulations, and your agent should definitely be pounding the pavement to get it. And the answer is not, well, they didn't put it in the listing, right? Because I can't tell you how many times I've heard that in our industry, and don't allow it. Just that is unacceptable.
Yep,
So-
and those monthly fees on those tighter HOAs, they're fairly expensive. I mean, ours down at our condo has risen from $200 when we started to now $450 per month. So it's just really important to understand like all of the factors on that.
Absolutely.
But I digress.
No, it's important, right? And not all HOAs are bad, and depending on what you like and don't like, it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't want to live there, but you should be in the know.
Just go in informed.
That's important.
You know, we just want you to be educated.
Okay, so that's generally the kind of things you do when you're looking for that home. You're out searching. Right? That's kind of some of the nuts and bolts and particulars. Let's talk about touring homes, the specifics of when you actually get to a home. Let's kind of pull back the curtain a little bit. Let's talk about maybe some touring home etiquette, some things that you should and shouldn't be doing. So I don't know let's just do with everybody loves a train wreck, right? Let's start with something that your clients have wanted to do that you've had to stop them while they're touring a home.
Oh gosh.
Look in the refrigerator.
Look in the
When
refrigerator.
it wasn't staying.
Right, and there's one case where you can, if the refrigerator's staying with the property, it's okay to open a
That's why I
refrigerator.
clarified.
Right, but other than that, no, don't look in the refrigerator.
They had a kid, so to be fair, it was the kid, but the kid loved the guitars. Loved and they had like 30 guitars, like hung on the wall, displayed everywhere. They wanted to play the piano. Anyways, I was like, that tour that I did was less of a tour and more of a babysitting, which is fine, but it was really hard to keep them off. It was really hard. Don't touch people's stuff. If it's personal items, just don't touch it.
And by the way, they're probably watching you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll definitely get to that.
Yeah.
Hayden, have you got something crazy that you
I've
had to
had
suggest a client shouldn't be doing?
Yeah, I've had a client want to open a garage that didn't have an automatic garage opener.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
you
I
have to
think
look it up
that's-
I
yourself.
think it's
Okay,
No,
I
but
don't know. So I've had a situation where a client opened a garage door and it came off the rails.
oh god.
And I'm stuck now, right? Because the client's like, well, I got to go. And the client leaves, and I've got to stay there and get that door. That's my
or
responsibility.
call the
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, so
And I certainly
you
would
gotta
call the listing
agent
agent right away.
Tell them right away what happened. But then it's my client did it, and it's my responsibility. So yeah, I don't. I will open garage doors on occasion, but I go and I visually inspect all the rails and everything. Is this a well operating door before I'll do that? And that's only like if we're going out to go to a back shed or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the idea that you can open all the windows and all the doors and run all the faucets, that's what inspections are for,
Yeah.
right? I mean, maybe, but here's the one that I find really strange is particularly on occupied houses, is the clients want to use the bathroom. And I'm like, I try to tell them, I'm like, look, let's stop at a QT or something, right? And so that's always in an emergency, in a pinch. I get it.
But how
let's-
many listings have you had where maybe the water wasn't really on or something, and then
Water's not on.
I've toured a house where the water wasn't on, and somebody previously had gone too many times in there.
Yeah, so yeah, don't plan on doing that. But that's kind of the
we
fun
understand
stuff.
emergencies, but save your poo for somewhere else.
That's right.
If you have a colonoscopy planned, just wait until we're after.
Oh,
Make
shoot.
number 2 not your number 1 choice, right?
There you go.
Okay, anyways.
All right, Jen mentioned it. You're probably being watched. You walk into every home under the expectation that you are being recorded, both audio and video, whether you can see it or not.
Yes.
That means do not criticize things that aren't part of the house, right? If you go in and
Well, I would save your criticism for outside the house.
without
anyways,
a doubt, but I mean, if you're having a discussion with your spouse or significant other or your realtor about how this kitchen layout really isn't your favorite and doesn't work out for you, that's fine. If you go, oh, I hate that piece of art, or this person is clearly of this political party and I think they're an idiot, right? And then they're listening, and then you decide you want to actually make an offer on the house. Number one, you're just being rude and mean,
Yeah.
and there's no point to it. But the second is if you're actually in there and you wanted to go, they're going to remember that. They're going to be like, I'm playing hardball with these jerks, and I want to, because they disrespected things that I find important in my household. So just don't do it, right?
Yeah.
You know, and a big one, I've got a house listed right now, and I can't tell you the number of times that this has happened in the last 2 weeks that we have been working on this. People either don't show up, or they show up really late. Or they were going to show up really late because I've been contacted because nobody showed up. And then when I contact, they're going to be there in 30 minutes. Well, by chance, that 30 minutes doesn't work because they have small children and just different variety of things. So timely is vital. I mean, especially when the home is occupied. We understand it's less important when the home is not occupied. But, you know, that courtesy that is someone's home and they have left the home with kids and all to go to the park or pets even, you know, is a real thing. So
I've got clients that when they were listing their home, when they didn't keep their dogs kenneled all day, but they would leave work and run home to kennel their dogs for the showing, and then want to run home and unkennel the dogs. And that's really important. And if your realtor isn't encouraging you to be on time, and then when you're not on time, is saying, hang on a minute, I need to make some phone calls, I need to let people know.
we just need to double check.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we understand people get off. It's hard when you're trying to show, say, 5 or 6 homes contiguously. That is difficult. And we understand times can run short, long, whatever. Courteous, just a notification, communication. It's just vital.
I think that there's a really easy way to go about showings, which is just, what if it was your home for sale? What do you want people touching in your house? What
The
do you not want them
golden rule.
touching? So anyways, it's an easy rule to just follow. What do you want people to touch in your house? And just be respectful and mindful of that.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I want to talk about on showings is, will the house be empty when it's being shown? And the answer is, in most cases, yes, but it is never required to be empty. So it's it's not unusual to have in any price home a person who is working from home, a person who is mobility impaired, a person who just doesn't want somebody rummaging through their stuff. Maybe they've got a lot of expensive antiques. Maybe they have, they're just a little paranoid. It doesn't really matter. It's their home. They have a right to be there. Hopefully they're not like hovering around you as you walk through. And the times this has happened with me, and it's happened several times,
Oh, yeah.
they're like, hey, it's great. And
I love asking them questions myself.
yeah, absolutely. I'll take the opportunity to try to get some more information. But usually they're like, hey, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be out of your way. When you want to see this space, let me know, and I'll step out for 5 minutes. So they're typically very, very respectful. You can often ask questions and get answers. One of the cases where you're almost always going to see someone, and that's going to be the listing agent, is in luxury homes. Homes probably $1 million plus. Frequently you will see that. I know I've got a listing coming up late this year that's going to be $2.5 million, and their requirement is that I am there giving the tour for every showing period. So they want me in the house, and so I'll be doing that. Plus, there's no way anybody who's not wildly educated about the house and all the systems in it could possibly
Yeah, they can't
represent
encompass
it.
it.
Well, yeah.
Right. So it's usually then the buying agent, their clients, and myself in that situation. I've been in that situation once before where I'm doing that. So it's perfectly acceptable. You don't have to be crazy about it. What you'll end up doing is probably what you should be doing anyway, which is you should be touring the house, maybe making a few comments, asking a few questions, but then leaving the house to have a really candid discussion with your realtor about what's going on, right? Did we like it? Did we not like it? Your realtor's going to try to get some information from you so they can help guide you in the future if it's not the right house. You might be talking about money. All of those things should be done outside of the house because you're going to be recorded. And by the way, that doesn't mean on the front stoop, because Ring doorbells have a heck of a reach.
Oh, yeah.
Rings and nests
do.
and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I frequently take my clients and we'll go around behind a car or something if we're going to talk out in front of the house, or say, hey, let's talk about this house when we pull up to the next one.
And acreage and estate, we've touched on that briefly, but frequently on acreage and estate, even when they're at a lower price point, I like to be there as the listing agent just because there could be horses, there could be pigs, there could be goats. And if you are not experienced in that realm, or even if you are, quite frankly, somebody else, their horse may not be the same as the lovely trail riding horse that you are used to. Because barrel horses and sport horses are a whole different breed of animal, quite frankly. So it's good to have those conversations up front. When I've had those listings, I always try and call the other agent to express like, hey, if you guys want to do a second tour, if you love the house, let's go together and I'll get you in the gates, make sure that everybody's safe, because that's a big thing with animals, is just making sure everybody's safe, and then go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Great points. All right, well, let's roll into, we've searched all of this, we've gone through, we've seen homes, we found a home, and now we're ready to make an offer. So let's walk.
We found our dream home.
That's right.
Found it.
Let's talk about making an offer, right? Contract, some of the key documents. There's a lot of things here. I'm going to preface this with 2 pieces of information that will blanket cover us for the next part of the discussion. Number 1, we are not lawyers, right? So any of these legal documents that you're signing, if you're unclear, if you're uncomfortable with, you should get legal advice, and that is not your realtor. Your realtor or real estate agent probably understands the documents at a base level and can guide you through the basics. But again, for real legal advice, get a lawyer. Number 2, this isn't HGTV. This stuff does not get done in a 30-minute episode. Right? It is a much more lengthy and drawn-out process.
I wonder how long a real recording of that takes, because I bet you it's like 20 plus hours.
I
should call Justin and
it's
ask.
all,
I have a friend down at the lake that did.
it's all
some of these,
scripted
so.
too, right? So it's
It
all,
is, but
yeah.
it just takes so long to record all of those pieces to put it together in a 30-minute episode.
So let's start here. Aiden, right? Pop quiz here. We'll see how good you're doing, right? How many pages is the standard contract used primarily in Kansas City for residential resale?
16 pages.
It's a 16-page contract, right?
That's before addendums.
That's before addendums, right? And then later on before amendments. So, yeah, 16 pages of legalese that you're going to go through. I will tell you this, your great realtor is going to, once you start, like, hey, I'm going to start looking for a home, they're going to go, okay, look, I'm going to give you a blank copy of the standard contract that is used, right? And then I want you to read through it. I know it's boring. I frequently will get on a Zoom with them. It'll take over an hour, and we go through every section so they understand them conceptually. Because sometimes you get in a situation where you need to make an offer quick. And if you need to make that offer quick and you're going through the 16-page document for the first time, that's really going to get you frustrated and slow you down. Now,
It does.
there are contracts that happen all over the city that aren't on the standard KCRAR, Kansas City Regional Association of Realtors contract. What are some typical places where you won't be using that contract?
Build jobs.
Build jobs is probably one of the biggest, right? Builders tend to use their own contracts. So do investors who flip. They can frequently use their own contracts as well.
And the commercial can be either a different contract within their association. They have one, but frequently big companies use their own.
Right. So if you're having to deal with,
Commercial stuff.
one of the big national companies that buys and sells home, where we've just been fighting through some issues with Open Door, right? They tend to use some of their own stuff. So again, your realtor will probably be somewhat familiar with, if not the contracts, the nature of what's in those clauses. But for real legal advice, get a lawyer involved. But if we're using the typical one, you want to be familiar with it. But let's talk about in that contract. Let's just stick with finance, right? Because we're not going to have time to go through the. Right? So that takes me well over an hour. But let's talk about like some of the financial money terms that you're going to be deciding when you choose to make an offer. I don't know who wants. Aiden, walk us through some of it.
First, purchase price, right? That's a big one. So with your purchase price,
I mean, you don't have to offer what they're asking.
yeah,
You know,
This is a negotiation, friend.
and typically, traditionally, up until we'll talk about what's happened in the last 5 or 6 years, but traditionally, it would be very common, right? We're not great barterers in America, right? We're not a bartering society. But in some places we do, right? We barter with used cars all the time. We expect to go in and have to negotiate. So it used to be the same very much with real estate, residential resale, where you would go, hey, they wanted this much, I'm going to offer them this much, and then we're going to meet in the middle. That was a mentality a lot of people had. So you could offer lower. So that's pretty common.
And
Yeah.
the purchase price isn't always the most important term.
Yeah, what else is in there?
Earnest money.
So, I don't. One of you, somebody besides me, I've been talking a lot. Describe what the purpose of earnest money is.
It's essentially to show your true interest in the house. So there's two ways that you can do it. You can make it refundable or non-refundable, just depending on your situation and also the seller situation. So, for example, like with build jobs, a lot of time when you're in a new build contract, you'll have a non-refundable earnest money deposit because they're investing so much time and money already up front. So you're saying, hey, I'm really interested. I don't plan to back out. And to show that, this is my good forth effort to show you that. And so that's kind of what it's doing. And on a residential resale purchase where the house has been built for a while, they've lived there, whatever, you can make it refundable, in which case you're saying, hey, I am interested in the
This
house,
is my
but
promise to purchase.
but if something goes south, then let's come to an agreement. I get this money back. And it's for a certain period of time because there's terms and whatnot that we could dive into more, but we
Right.
shouldn't right now. But also, that money just ends up going towards your closing costs as the buyer anyway. So if you put down 1%, that 1% of the purchase price, then that 1% would go towards whatever your closing costs are anyway. So you'll
Closing
see it.
cost, purchase price, it goes
Yeah, you'll see
usually
it.
lumped into the
Goes
barrel.
to the
Yes.
sale.
Yep.
And if you overpaid, you'll get money back.
Yeah, that's
What-
happened before too.
What, Aiden? What do you think? Is there a common number or percent that people are frequently doing?
Typically 1%.
What, 1%?
Yeah, and if you
That's why you see
read
a
the additional terms and conditions, usually there is some sort of request of what they
Yeah.
would like the
Yeah.
earnest money to be. Doesn't mean
Now-
you have to offer that
Yes.
number, but there is a request, and so that's a conversation. Again, that's a negotiation, and as Eric said, we aren't necessarily barterers in this country, but this is a time where you bring those skills up to the top, even if you don't like them.
I had saw one time who they had a really, really strong offer. It was cash box 3, which just means no inspections, waive everything. We want the house how it is, close quick. But they needed to sell their house and it was already under contract and they were closing and got through inspections and everything. So they were ready to close. But they had no money to put down on an earnest. So they gave us $50, I think. I think it was like $50 earnest money. And it was the smoothest transaction ever.
There you go.
Well,
Right,
there you
they just
go.
didn't have any cash.
Yeah.
And if you're that close to closing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That money theoretically is less important if we're waiving everything and
Right.
closing in 10 days. It probably doesn't matter whether I give you $1,000 or $50 if I'm following through with that in 10 days.
Not going to be a huge loss.
It might even honestly be an issue with the title company because you can't write a personal check that close to a closing
Yeah.
because of the clearage and all of these things. So I have actually had title companies on tight end deals like that 10 days say, I need you to delete this earnest money. We can't do it if you have that in there. So
Right.
just depends on the situation, but all good to know.
Right, because earnest money frequently is a personal check or a transfer through a portal that the title company set up. Earnest money in our area is almost exclusively held by title companies, so it's not held by the buyer, the seller, the buyer's agent, or the seller's agent. Title companies provide that service for all of us in the industry. So they're a disinterested third party. So that's a good thing.
Real quickly, I want to jump back to the importance of the seller's disclosure.
Yeah, we hadn't
So-
gotten there. Yeah, so go.
So when we are looking at a home as a better buyer, which you're going to be, that seller's disclosure is vitally important for you to look at and read. It's going to tell you, or at least it should tell you, if the home has that HOA that we tried to beat into your head of the importance of checking that out, right? So it's going to have that in there. It should have the amount of money, but it's got theoretically all of the other things that this particular seller knows are wrong with the home. So for example, if foundation issues are a deal breaker for you, which they are for a lot of buyers, and that's completely understandable, especially if you're a first-time home buyer, that's a big thing to jump into. That usually should or will be disclosed in a seller's disclosure. So it is important to look through that. And if there are blanks on that seller's disclosure that make you feel uncomfortable, please tell us as your agent. I mean, we're going to look through it as well, but it's a long document. I think it's
Eight.
10
Eight.
pages
Eight.
now, 8 pages now. So that's a big document. It's an important document. Let's look through that, go through that, talk about any concerns that you have so that we can call the listing agent, ask those questions, and then try and get those blanks filled in and updated for you because it's very important.
The other thing that seller's disclosure will have in it is it will have information about what appliances are staying and what are not. What it typically stays with the house, so it would be very unusual not to see it, are ranges and stoves and cooktops,
Microwaves that are
dishwashers,
installed.
installed microwaves. What doesn't necessarily come with the house, but does in some circumstances. So to be honest, it's not a typical. I see it more and more. Are refrigerators, washers, and dryers. It's like, is the fridge staying? Is the washer and dryer staying? Anything else that's unusual in there? Hopefully your realtor is going to point out to you. But you should see it as well. That'll
And
be in
another
there.
big one that I've been seeing more and more is fireplaces that are not usable.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's okay. You need to understand you can't use that fireplace, but that's one of the expenses that go from, we'll say 200 to 12,000 to 18,000 to 20,000 very quickly.
if you plan on using a fireplace, it's really important that, and we're going to be talking in our as part 3 of our series about inspections. So
And
we'll
we've
talk
actually
lot
had
about
a
that.
fireplace specialist on the podcast. It's been a little while, so it's not on our YouTube channel. But if you flip back, we did have a chimney company in to kind of go through those things. And that is a really important because it can get really expensive and it could be a safety issue. So
Sleep
just
Easy.
read those.
Sleep Easy chimney.
Yes.
So you guys have
Yep.
So let's go back and kind of go back to some of the money terms because we've talked about earnest money, we've talked about purchase price. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it, but there's a thing called an escalation clause. Let me see if I can knock that out really quick. For those of you that have been around for a little while, 10 or 15 years, you guys, do you remember, did you ever do any eBay
Yeah.
work? You ever
eBay work.
eBay? You ever play on eBay?
eBay. Oh my.
Anybody's
I still actually use that sometimes.
Anybody's a little bit older remembers when the eBay first came out, it's all the deal and we were all on it. And eBay had this situation where you could go, I'm going to offer this amount, but then I'm going to let eBay automatically raise the amount in increments of $10 or $100 or whatever.
That's on
it is.
all our realtor options now too.
Right.
For our auctions.
That essentially goes, if somebody outbids me, I'll immediately go up, right?
To a certain price.
certain point. That's an escalation clause. You can do that in a real estate offer, right? So,
Ask your agent about it. They all can be
Yeah.
very specialized, but we just wanted to mention that, especially in the more competitive price points, those are still a real thing.
Yep.
Yep.
Another thing you can do is, and boy, we don't really recommend this, but there are certain circumstances where it makes sense, but you can offer to waive some of your inspection rights. So what do we call that?
An as-is addendum.
As is addendum. Technically, I think it's the in its present condition addendum. There are levels to that, so your realtor can walk you through that. That's something you can do to make your offer more attractive if you're in a competitive situation.
As an investor, I can tell you that I have done that hundreds of times. And if you'd like to contact me, I can tell you how it has burned me on the backside. But as an investor, you kind of inherit some of those problems and know that they're coming. But I'd be happy to share that with anybody that wants to know more.
Pretty common from an investor perspective.
Yep.
A whole lot less common for somebody who's going to live in the home they're buying. The last thing I want to mention about the terms is your loan information goes on that offer. And the reason your loan information goes on that offer, think about it, right? Hey, I want to buy your car. Now I'm going to get a loan. And you're like, hey, if I'm going to sell you my car, I want to know that you can actually get the loan because I'm about to pull it off of the market. And so it's, and
Goes back to that pre-qualification.
that typical close in a real estate transaction is 30 days ish. And so if you're going to ask me to pull my house off the market for 30 days until we get this deal done, I'm going to want to know that you actually can, secure the money to buy the house. So that loan information, the type of loan, the
Loan to value.
loan to value, how much money you're putting down, who the lender is, all of that information goes on there. And then if your listing agent isn't, and I do every time, I call that lender up.
Yep.
And the lenders love it because then they make contact with me and maybe I'll recommend them. But I like, tell me where we are on this. And they don't divulge any specific information, but they will divulge about like, hey, we're running really tight and this is an FHA and blah, blah, blah. And they're just being honest. But more frequently you hear, hey, they're well qualified. You know, it shouldn't be a problem. They've got plenty of cash reserves, whatever, and because they want to help their clients get deals too. They're not going to lie to you, but they're going to give us some information about the strength of that. And if we're in a position where we have competing offers, the strength of a loan, right, or the financing in general, certainly comes into the decision-making process for a seller.
Well, and there is some really great communicators in the lending industry, and I have received many calls over my tenure of an agent's lender contacting me before they submit the offer, which is actually really rolling out the red carpet, if you will, for that particular client. If you know that that lender is going to be such a great communicator, that they communicated with you, this offer is going to be coming in, these are, you know, our particular clients together, here's some of the details, and we would just really love to work with you. Goes a long ways.
Seen that. I've definitely seen that. Okay, well, I think that kind of wraps up of the things we wanted to cover, right? We reviewed pre-qualification. We're talking about how you find your dream home, just in general, the neighborhoods and the things you should be considering, right? Then we talked about the specifics of going out and touring your home. And then finally, when you make that offer, we talked about the contract, some of the financial decisions that will go into that contract, right? And so from there, we've got a handful of things to talk about in our next episode. Anybody want to give a little teaser about things we're going to be talking about?
Closing costs.
Closing costs, right? How much money do I have to bring to the closing table, and what in the world are all these fees? So definitely something we'll be talking about. Anything else?
Inspections.
Another huge
I just
important
know everyone
thing.
loves to talk about inspections.
We're going to be, we can tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly of inspections. We've all been through it all. We're going through some tough ones now. So it's just, it's a crazy thing. What else? One other big topic. There you go. Appraisals, right? And what happens if the appraisal doesn't match your offer and what your options are. And then finally, we're going to talk about that fun day where you actually get access to the house. So you get those keys. Yeah, absolutely. That's coming.
Keys.
That's coming on our Better Buyer episode 3, the last of our 3-episode series. We hope you've really enjoyed it. We hope there's been some great information that's helped you out. Until next time.
You have been listening to Get Real KC with Eric Jurgensen and Jen Justice. For more information or to contact our hosts, visit us at dreamhomesbyjen.com, where you can find more episodes exploring real estate as it matters to you.